Let's just tell the story.
I will tell the orange story, don't worry.
No, I mean the Sergio No story.
That's also what I meant.
I haven't heard it in a while.
I'll tell you afterwards. Georgie.
No, come on. Let's share it with the audience.
I think I'll share it with the audience at a more appropriate time.
Right, okay. Next time Sergio comes on screen.
When you're dueling with mirrors at the end.
Yeah.
I think that's probably a bit we'll come back to later.
We'll find out how much Miraz
Right, Georgie.
really hated you.
Yeah, exactly.
How long this took to shoot?
This was just before we left Auckland, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
it's our last shot, wasn't it?
Shot.
Yep.
It's a really nice moment. This whole little bit of rediscovering their past and what they left behind. I think I've always found sort of the first real sort of emotional moment for the Pevensies.
But at the same time, we had to concentrate on the fact that Will only had a certain number of shirts he could rip.
That's right.
And rip it in the right place as well.
What I love about this is that Will's trying to be so, DIY and really cool and survival, and Skandar just completely takes the mick out of him.
As usual.
Is Edmund's torch something that's in the book Prince Caspian, Andrew?
Yes.
I forgot.
Yes, it is.
That's the last line.
It is actually. The last line is about the torch. It plays a bit more of a part in the movie. We got to kind of utilise it a little bit more, but it's there at the beginning and end of the book.
There's a lot of like hard, emotional, physical scenes in this film, and just doing these sort of fun, small scenes and sort of exploring scenes are always kind of a nice relief, actually.
What I loved about this scene was the fact we had these beautiful chests full of like jewels and things. Like I had a whole massive thing of jewels, and I'm such a magpie. I loved it.
It's all still here.
There's massive statues as well.
Although you guys had to have like moleskin on the bottom of your feet here, remember? Because you were running across
that's right.
multiple takes and there's all these little sharp rocks
I didn't
and
get
everything.
I didn't have
I
moleskin.
didn't either.
Was it just you, Anna?
Maybe it was just me. I have sensitive feet.
Oh, princess.
High Queen.
Susan.
I think there's a pea on the floor.
I love that shot of you, Skandar, in the helmet. It always
Yeah, it makes me laugh so
Always
much.
makes me giggle.
I like this moment. I think it's a great moment. This is where you first realise what it is that Peter is really wanting, and it's kind of the glory of his former years as king, which really drive a lot of his decisions throughout the movie and a lot of his mistakes. Harry pointed this out to me. It looks like here you're bowing to yourself at first.
Yeah.
And then you
Yeah.
see the chest come up. I never actually thought about it that way,
I
but
thought
he
that
pointed
the
out when he was
first time I
scoring it. I mean, I did that on purpose.
I did that on purpose.
Were the statues modelled on the actors who played the older versions of us in the last film? Actually?
Yeah, and in some cases trying to kind of bring more of your likenesses into them. But yes, we started with all of the actors from the last film.
Yeah, my statue did look a bit like Rachel, who, by the way, is my older sister.
Yes,
Who
it
played
did. We
older
modelled
me.
on it. I felt so
But-
mean this day.
We
This
had to
was
try
actually
and make Georgie cry.
yeah, because I had to make Georgie
Yeah,
cry.
this is awful.
And you were aware of the fact that I was trying to make you cry, and I was deliberately letting you get really frustrated.
Yeah,
And
it was awful.
I thought, okay, I don't know, because it was relatively early in the shoot, and we hadn't worked together for a while. And I didn't know if at the end of this you were going to be completely just unforgiving. But you did. You actually, even though you let me do it, you also understood what I was doing, which was really interesting because that was a new level, I think, for you from the last film.
Yeah, it was just a bit weird because, and also I think everybody kind of picked up on it a bit, and everybody was kind of giving me like, the stink eye.
I love, talking of stink eye, look at
Here's
this look. That
some
Dinklage
great
is,
eye acting, speaking of...
Just giving the Telmarine here. That's terrifying. I think that's a fantastic...
This was actually Peter's first day of shooting, and we literally had shaved his head when he got to New Zealand. That is yak fur all over his face. The sandflies were terrible. He was lying in the bottom of a wooden boat. And then
Sandflies are
he got
awful.
thrown in the water.
It's the first time we get this really majestic theme in the music as well.
Yeah, I'm really,
Nice
really
choice.
happy with Harry's score. I think Harry Gregson Williams, who's worked on all my films, but this is his second
That
only
guy.
film, really pulled a lot together for this film.
Is this your Mr. Darcy moment?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, you'd never be
With
Mr. Darcy.
Trumpkin. Instead of Keira Knightley.
Or Jennifer Ale, something like that.
Really, yeah.
Ely.
There, Georgie gets to use her dagger for the first time.
Woo!
I love that you had to just cut the ropes, but you pull it out like
I
you're
know.
Zorro.
It was like a flourish.
This was our first day with Peter. He's such a good actor as well. It sort of blew us away.
And he didn't really care that the sandflies were basically eating him alive. Well, he did care,
I think
but...
he was using it.
They were doing fine drowning me without your help.
Maybe we should have let them.
Why are they trying to kill you anyway?
This was actually a really remarkable location down on the South Island of New Zealand, and it's very hard to get to. It's basically only accessed by jet boat and helicopter, and because it's actually a penguin sanctuary, there's only a certain amount of time we were able to shoot there and a certain amount of helicopter access. So we were very lucky with working with the Department of Conservation in New Zealand last time that we'd left things very much how we found them, and so they allowed us access to some really remarkable places this time.
Yeah.
There was greenstone on the beach.
There's greenstone on the beach,
But
yes.
you weren't allowed to take it because it was all protected. And we found a massive whale bone near where the helicopters took off.
Yeah, it was a very magical place. Although it also caused us a large amount of problem because of Didymo. Remember Didymo?
Oh, yeah.
Didymo is an algae that they call river snot that was introduced from North America into some of the waterways here by fishermen. And some waterways have it and some don't, and it chokes up the waterways. And this river, I think this river didn't have it, or one of the rivers did, one of the rivers didn't. So after being here, all of our equipment had to be completely disinfected. Everything had to be really handled very carefully.
This fight was actually really cool. Skandar, you got something to say about this fight?
No, I win in the end, didn't I?
This is something that
Words
Skandar
for
never could have
actions.
done in the last movie. Remember how much we had
So
to work
true.
to get him amped up in the last film? And look at him now.
I love this bit.
The pose at the end is terrific.
And it's a moment from the book, isn't it?
That glare.
That's my stink eye.
Smouldering.
Is that your Zoolander look?
Let's see it. Nice.
Yeah, it's a shame there's not a camera in here.
Now, I thought this was your first day of shooting.
No, this is my first day of shooting in the studio, which was
right.
after. This was back up when we came back up to Auckland.
This was
the
probably your
last
first
thing we
dialogue
did.
scene, actually, right?
My first dialogue scene.
Yes, yeah.
It
The first-
speaks.
The first time you had to do the accent.
Yes.
Karate Kid.
Really didn't leave a mark, that tree branch, did it?
Yeah.
It's lucky you heal really quickly.
Yeah.
It was the back
They
of
put
the
the tiniest bit underneath the hair. The interesting thing about this set was that we came in to do a rehearsal, and I was taller. I couldn't stand up straight in it because it was so small, so they had to shave an extra 3 or 4 inches off the ceiling so that I could stand
I
up
was
straight.
so glad we did that rehearsal, or otherwise we wouldn't have realised that you would have done the whole scene with your stoop.
In this scene, yet again, Andrew's assistant, Alina, was playing Truffle Hunter, dressed in a fully lime green lycra suit with balaclava gloves. I mean, it's so helpful to have somebody's eyes to kind of look into and someone to say the dialogue with.
Look what you made me do.
Truffle Hunter was actually done by CFC in London, and I think they really did a nice job with him. They really picked up on Ken Stott's voice, and he's a really sweet badger.
Yeah.
I love when he kind of like bumbles along.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you're Narnians. They're supposed to be extinct.
Oh, sorry to disappoint you.
I didn't realise they'd make Warwick look so, like, also old and scary.
And every time you see Warwick in person, I was always surprised at how young he is, because I got so used to seeing him in this prosthetic. It's really a full facial prosthetic that he just would sometimes sit there and completely zen out so that he could actually handle the fact that he was in this thing for 16 hours a day at times.
This scene was fantastic to do because to be able to do a scene with Warwick Davis, who I'd sort of grown up watching in Willow and the Star Wars films, you know, he's a fantastic actor, and it was fantastic to get to do scenes with him.
What was he in Star Wars?
He was actually one of the Ewoks. I think Warwick's probably been in more movies, done more movies than anyone else, barring maybe Mark Johnson, of any of the people in this film.
You're right.
This was probably your first experience acting with non-existent things,
Yeah, absolutely.
My uncle won't stop until I'm dead.
But you can't leave.
other than early childhood.
Don't you know what this is?
Oh, look at his face, he's so cute.
Yeah, I do. I love this shot
Me
as
or
well.
the
You get
badger?
so much out of that.
Not you, Ben.
This is now back in Prague. Again, wonderful set. Just built with such a sort of attention to detail and authenticity, with real glass windows. Incredible set decoration too. Just the being in Europe allowed us to access some just great antiques. But on top of that, Carrie actually built just a lot of this furniture so that the Telmarine world actually felt unique.
Is there anything particular you seek, my lord?
I think I've already found what I'm looking for.
It was really great just to get this wonderful pool of European actors together, and you know, so many of them just hadn't been in a film together, and they're all just so wonderful. And you get so much with so little in terms of just, I mean, just that look from Vincent there. There's so much satisfaction in the fact that he knows that Prince Caspian has achieved what he set out for Prince Caspian to achieve. And even though he knows he's about to probably be killed, you just get this look of victory in his eyes, which is really great.
And you get the exact opposite, I think, from Sergio when he stabs the arrow into the desk. You can just see the frustration seething under the surface, and yet his face isn't moving at all, just the eyes burn at you.
Yeah.
And also I think Sergio stabs the arrow into a horse's heart, which is actually just there.
In that take he did.
In that take he did, yes, I agree.
It went through your head several other times, William.
Quite impressive, though.
So I did.
That beard has a amazing, you know, sticking out ability.
It's so strange to see Pier Francesco being so consistently mean.
Yes,
he's such a nice
such
guy.
a sweet man.
Don't be nervous.
Apart from when you get him on politics.
I love this little scene, actually. What goes on between Damien and Pier Francesco in this scene, I really like. There's just so much unspoken.
First our prince, now his tutor. If the members of Miras's own house are not safe, or any of us.
Speaking of politics,
Yeah, again, Damien Alcazar is just such an incredible actor. Has played so many serial killers and really, really kind of deeply evil people, and is just one of the sweetest men I think I've ever met.
When I was in Mexico, people went crazy for him. Absolutely crazy, because we were publicising the film Mexico City, and I've never seen people freak out so much, and he's a really respected, independent actor.
Yeah, that's one of the things that was interesting for me, is I like the fact that, in general, we cast from an audience that was relatively unknown, certainly in the US. We cast from a group of people that were fairly unknown in the US and new to that audience. And yet, if you go to Italy and mention Sergio, people just about pass out. If you go to Mexico and mention Damien, the same thing. You know, all of these are just really, really well-recognised actors in their own countries.
It's a beautiful shot.
I love this music as well. Something so enchanting about that sound.
It's like a harp, isn't it?
I think it's like a sort of Spanish guitar. More.
This was such an amazing day of filming.
It was such a beautiful location. This is, again, a location that was only really accessible by boat or helicopter, and this is probably the smallest the movie ever got. There were about 20 of us on a raft. I think I was operating the little outboard motor for our raft and the radio control for your guys' boat. Alexa was doing video assist. I mean, everyone was double tasking, and it was
radio
just this
control boat.
Yeah.
You didn't think William was actually doing that rowing?
Yeah, I did.
He couldn't row straight to save his life.
Yes, I could. I practiced.
Skandar's staring at, and I'm keeping them straight with this radio control with two motors on it.
You were giving us directions by walkie-talkie.
That's true. Actually, yeah, we had a walkie-talkie in the boat, which we had to give to Peter because he was the only responsible person.
Apart from Georgie.
That is a beautiful shot. Actually, no,
Did you think it was fake, but it's completely real?
Anna's more responsible. The thing is that this was when my accent went really weird, when I was trying too hard on the accent. I said, I had to dub it loads in ADR because I said, they used to dance. And I said, I don't understand. Because I was trying really hard to get the accent and it just wouldn't work.
It was such a perfect afternoon, though. The sun came out. We actually waited on that shore for about 3 hours. Because of the whole Didimo thing, we had to have all the equipment cleaned. We ended up waiting for a long time, and then that sun came out and just shot that scene in 3 hours. It was really as peaceful as it ever got on the movie set.
And Peter, for some reason, had a waterfall in the background every time the camera was on. I don't know how. and a rainbow.
He's an experienced actor. He knows when to time his lines.
Exactly. What are you trying to say, Andrew?
And we were all like massive frizzy hair. Because nobody was there to smooth down our hair.
That's true. There was, the hair and makeup to get to you was really difficult.
And I remember Roxy on film was just like, after the scene, she was like, frizzy.
I think KC was doing your hair half the time, our AD.
No, Anna was doing it.
No, that's right, Anna was doing it.
No, you didn't use a real bear at any point during this sequence, did you?
No, there was a giant stuffed bear.
This is my first stunt.
Not a real stuffed
But
bear.
the stuffed bear was for when he was dead.
Yes,
wasn't it?
yeah.
So
This is my first stunt falling over on gravel.
Shoot! Susan, shoot!
Scene.
The only thing about this is that my smiley mouth was in true. And I think that's why when I'm on the ground, you don't have a shot of my face because
Your scared smile?
my scared smile,
Yes, that's an unfortunate one.
which never works. I really need to get over that.
You know, though, it may work in a real life situation. You know, people will just think, she's not scared, she's smiling at me.
So, Peter Dinklage basically got this rubber glove, whatever it is, and and filled it with water and fake blood. And then when they called cut on Narnia's More Savage Place, then we remember we were all standing around like we are now, and he turned around with blood all in his mouth and this disgusting glove
Like
hanging out.
entrails or something that he was
Entrails
eating.
that he just ripped from the bed. It was absolutely disgusting. I think Georgie screamed.
It was so
And
funny.
he was really annoyed because they called cut before he actually had done it, so
Yeah.
he didn't even get it on film.
I can hear you.
This is crazy. This is just one of the crazy aspects of filmmaking. Is I found a location on the far side of Poland that was like this. It was a forest full of ferns, which was perfect for the scene. And it turns out it was more expensive to take our massive travelling circus one day across Poland than it was to bring in about 5,000 ferns and redecorate a forest just outside of Prague.
But definitely not more frustrating, because every time we took even 3 or 4 steps, they had to run back in and replant the ferns
You
by
can
hand.
actually sometimes see the ceramic pots.
I was in this forest for 2 weeks, I think, shooting this sequence.
Although actually it did turn out that the real forest in Poland had brambles, so I don't know which would have been worse.
That would have been worse.
I'm always amazed how real it looks when Ben picks up the badger in this scene. How did you do
Yeah,
that? Because
it's so real.
They
and the
sort
weight.
of, I mean, I did a few runs holding a stuffed badger, but then principally I was holding this pillow, this blue pillow, which was sort of shaped vaguely like a badger.
Was it like a cushy thing?
And every time I ran with it, it was like one of those pillows that
Which
you
kind
behind
of
your
like mould.
neck. And they kept telling me to turn it around because I kept
Here
having
comes one
it
of those
sort of...
cool shots
I love
with
that
the arrow.
shot.
Yeah,
I love
Andrew
that
had to get that one in. And the sound is so good.
And they make this look easy. All of these guys are basically running through potted plants. I just want to point that out.
Oh, I tripped and fell so many
Warwick
times.
did virtually a somersault.
Oh no! Wait! I'll go!
It was an incredible job with Pete Kodacek and the whole greens department, who would have to come in and replace these ferns in between takes. It was a pretty massive undertaking.
And we also had to have members of the stunt team standing where we would finish these runs, because we would be running over these potted plants and there would be no way of stopping yourself, really. So we had to have sort of stuntmen waiting to catch us at the end of these runs.
The other interesting thing here was the cable camera. We got to this shooting this, and we hadn't really figured out yet how to shoot within the pot plants and so on. And we ended up making basically a homemade cable camera, where we just strung cables through the trees, mounted the camera on pulleys, and our special effects department, Gerd and his team, actually built a motorized thing to move the camera through, so we were able to do those flying shots in between the trees.
That's so cool.
And this is where we meet Reaper Cheek.
Don't give the game away.
I don't know why.
I've seen it before.
I don't know how Prince Caspian could not have been. I'd see why he was that scared, because I would have been terrified. Like an unknown force.
And another example of me throwing myself onto the ground and lying down.
So why did you choose Eddie Izzard in the end, Andrew?
You can tell why. It was a really remarkable opportunity with Eddie, and we'd been really trying to figure out who Reaper Cheap was, and when Gal Stevens, the casting director, suggested Eddie to me, it was just kind of one of those perfect serendipitous moments, and getting in the studio with him is when we really defined the character.
An absolutely bizarre scene to shoot, in terms of, having a piece of wire on your chest with an orange dot at the top for an eyeline, and somebody manoeuvring Reaper Cheap from 20 feet offset and delivering the lines from over there as well.